What's going on, everyone? What's going on?
Hey, internet, what's up?
Back
I know what
again.
everybody's thinking. We're back, and this is not Thursday. You're right, it's Friday. So for everybody thinking their days are mixed up,
Mm,
you're not.
and they
You're
are,
not.
they are mixed up.
No, we're at fault. It's us for sure.
It's all right. It's all right. We have the ability to switch things up, so that's a good
Yeah,
thing with
yeah.
us. But
We apologize
no,
beforehand.
I don't know if we'd apologize, but anyways, this will be our Star Wars Resistance kind of a semi-season finale, right? So this is our first half or season finale, part one of episodes 13 through 16. So before we even dive into Star Wars Resistance, let's let our guy DP let you guys know where to find us at.
NerdCyclopedia.com, people, your favorite website where you get all your favorite social media ats from us at Nerdcyclopedia. We are on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and also on TikTok. All right. If you like listening to us on podcasts, we are on iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, anywhere that you listen to your favorite podcast. We are there. We are going to be on Odyssey soon, so be on the lookout for that.
Ooh.
If you're watching us on YouTube, thank you. Make sure you smash that subscribe button. Also hit that notification button. So anytime that we're on, you know that we're on. If you're watching us on Facebook, thank you as well. Make sure that you join our Facebook group, our Carbonite Bounty BS, the Star Wars group, where you get all your favorite memes, all your favorite conversations as far as Star Wars, and just some good conversation, period. We love it. Send us an email. You know, we're at nerdcyclopedia.com. We love getting your feedback and love giving it right back to you.
Good stuff, good stuff. And yeah, and as we discussed briefly off camera, I think we're all in agreement here on our introductions. But yeah, we'll let CS 515 sort us out.
So this chunk of episodes, these were great. Now we're into like what we wanted. Like we want First Order, like sabotage. We want to see evil, and we want to see our heroes, getting in there and getting over on them. I really love this set of these last this 13 through 16. It was great. I like so Kaz is a bit of a moron. But I think there's a little bit of him in all of us. And I've said this before. There's a little bit of, this expectation that I want to be great. I want to be great. But I'm not. And I'm going to fall and I'm going to fail. But he surrounds himself with enough good people that I think he's gonna come out all right, because he's got his mentor, he's got Poe, he's got BB with him, and I think we need to talk about BB-8, because BB-8's really the hinge here between this story that we're delving into and the next story, which I think we're all in agreement is The Force Awakens. Like, we are basically connecting this. And reason why I use the word hinge is because he's basically connecting the two like a door. Like, we're seeing Resistance as opening the door to this story that really we didn't know anything about these characters. Now we're going to have a little bit of knowledge. Kaz, to me, kind of also falls into the Finn perspective, because really Finn was kind of he was kind of a buckethead. He was in the sanitation crew. He knows a lot about trash. He knows a lot about like the inner workings of what the First Order was and the garbage that it was. And Kaz kind of has that. And even when he took over a trooper, and I got to give him credit. I mean, he did a pretty good job. Like, I wouldn't really know how to manipulate the armor correctly. I don't even know if I could get this stuff on right. But I like the idea that he just, he didn't even like pause to think about it. He just knew that was the next step. He had to take that over. That was the way he was going to progress, in his journey. And I think that episode, the new trooper, I think it was called, was a slam dunk for us. And that's why I took the name CS515, because that's and there's always a comm error, which I have several Stormtrooper helmets, and none of them have a communication error. Like, I can talk to other Stormtroopers in my head with my helmet on.
Are the Stormtroopers here in the room with us now?
Yes, they are. They are. But anyway, I love this. I like that they're getting away from the racer aspect, and we're getting a little more of the resistance and like what we're going to see in the future. So I dug it. I mean, this was a great step off to our finale.
Ken, I think you missed a major opportunity. That should be KS515. I don't know why you wouldn't do that. That is
I was thinking about that, but I don't want to take glory away from the trooper.
So humble.
I think if I was a Stormtrooper, I would have to be, THX 1138. That would be my call sign. And the world is damning me right now because that's the dumbest thing ever, but that would have to be my call sign. That would be my trooper number, and I would only respond to that, and I would make sure my communication device and my helmet worked, whether I had to micro solder that shit or what, but it would work. And I could shoot. That's the other thing. If I'm shooting you, you're going to get it.
What are you thinking, DP?
I said it in my offline with you guys in the group and everything. This was probably the best episodes of the series so far. You get a chunk of episodes that get right to like the plot of what the First Order is doing, what we've basically been clamoring on, about from like the beginning and everything. It's something Ken was saying about Kaz. And he calling him a moron. To me, these back episodes, he was the most tolerable. This has been the most tolerable he has been this whole series. With these with these batch episodes. So I'm digging like Cash just getting into it, like you say, him getting into like the Stormtrooper uniform and everything. He got to the point of what he wanted to do, and he was a man of action. So you got to admire that about him. I'm like, okay, yeah, he's not that much of a moron. He can have his silliness and everything. I think these batch episodes, like the last two, especially maybe like the last one, I got into like the fascism, of the craziness of what the First Order is doing. Protection of the people. Okay, in name of we're going to give you security in peace in the name of protecting you guys and everything. And Tam is like all in. She was all in. Like, okay, well, I mean, they're I feel much safer with these guys here. Really? Okay, and it
that
just
blew my mind.
Yeah,
there's someone that's like, what was really comforting was the oppressive boot of the Sith. I just love that so much.
Yeager explained to her, like, you didn't grow up. You grew up in a time of, or was he talking to Cash? You grew up in a peacetime and everything where you didn't see like the differences of what the Empire did, Imperial, what they did versus this, so you don't really know like the difference. And I mean, I guess we'll get into it like a little later and everything. I'm sort of pushing back on like the length of time of when the Empire fell to the First Order rising, people not learning lessons, but people still knowing like, the history and everything and what happened, repeating steps and all that stuff. I'm sitting here like, geez, this is, but it's good stuff here. It's better than the kiddish stuff we was getting in the beginning. So I'm digging like, where they're coming from, with all this. And I'm sitting here like, geez, Sonora, she's going through her stuff, and Cass is sort of like, is she? And then he's finally not being a moron. Okay, she is, a part of the pirates or whatever. helping them out, and then the First Order betraying them, to get in on like the security and everything. I'm sitting there like, okay, these are some to me, these were like some well-written episodes for this batch.
Yeah, what about you, Hitch?
This is the good batch.
Not the bad batch.
Well, we're doing a good batch, frankly, at this point. I thought these were real great episodes for us to watch, and I think they've kind of figured out the characters. These series, like when we started watching Clone Wars, I was not enthusiastic, and part of it was like I think they didn't quite know what to do with the characters, so they made a lot of mistakes, and then later on they were like, we're gonna stop doing those mistake things. So less Jar Jar Binks, which was important to me. I don't know if you guys remember that. But I enjoyed this batch of episodes because they seem to figure out a little bit of how to use the different characters. I think making there be hey, the First Order is not so bad type person is very, one, true to life, and two, very interesting. And for it to be Tamara of all characters to be saying like, hey, let's trust the police is itself very interesting, right? So I think, and let's not forget, this came out, when this came out, like 2018, right?
Right. So
people not learning lessons and returning to outdated ideas that led to oppressive regimes was not exactly, an unknown thing that people were going through in 2018. Let's be clear about that. As far as like what was going on when they were making this, I think it's great to finally see Kaz kind of come into his own a little bit. They recruited him because he was a good pilot, and then he just showed up and was an idiot. Like you said, he kept breaking stuff and looking like a clumsy moron that doesn't know what's inside a ship. And he's supposed to be an academy graduate, and he doesn't know how to repair a ship at all. I don't know. So I think they kind of resolved a lot of that character stuff. Kaz seemed to know what was going on. I like that they gave him conflict with Sonara. I thought that was really great, that you saw him want to help her anyway, not just to screw over the First Order, although to screw over the First Order, right? Let's remember that for sure. I echo what Ken said about getting away from this racing stuff. Like, look, I get it. George Lucas loved to race cars when he was a teenager in the 50s and 60s. He loved it. So we love to see the Star Wars races. The pod races from episode 1 are very famous, and we see a lot of racing here. But I mean, flying through the rings it gets boring after a while.
Yeah.
And if the ships have guns anyway, then why are we, what are we doing here? Also, they use the same ships when they go after the pirates, and that guy that's in the like modified TIE fighter just keeps getting dusted. Like, he stinks. Like, replace him with somebody that's competent, please. I like this episode a lot. I think we see a lot more about how insidious the First Order is and how they're definitely not working in good faith. They plan on coming up with a pretext to apply some military might to the Colossus.
And betraying everybody.
Everyone, yeah.
Everybody, because they want it as a resupply station, right? It's like a Pacific island that's important. The Japanese were coming at a certain point in the 1939, 1940 range. So, again, echoing, some past historical events. But I really enjoyed this. I even like Nico a little bit in that at the end of this set, which I don't particularly care for that character because I think they lay it on a little too thick.
Yeah.
But they just let him say like, "Hey, I just don't feel that way about you," instead of really laying it on thick with being like, "Hey, I don't feel that way about you, and also not about any guy," or something like that. You know what I mean? They would have ruined the joke, but they didn't, and so I think that shows maturity. And I think the real bad guys are here. I mean, it's hard to think of any of these racing people as bad guys. They're just like, it's like wacky races. They're just drivers. Like, it's not like you hold some sort of grudge because someone like drives their car faster than you. Like, who does that? That's insane. Like, no one would just hold a grudge like that. So having these people actually have to fight.
Fast and the Furious.
Okay, Don Toretto, if he was one of those guys, maybe he was just driving a regular car too, but it flew like you know what I mean? It flew like a
Fireball.
TIE fighter. Yeah, that would be pretty great. Anyway, I like these episodes a lot more, and it gives me promise for the rest of the series because I was getting it seemed like they were doing the same things over and over, the same conflicts. But here they're taking advantage of a pre-set up sort of status quo to advance a plot, multiple directions, and to show why the First Order sucks. I mean, let's face it. It seems like in the galaxy far, far away, there's this idea that the First Order isn't that crappy, but we see that they are. I mean, they're rousting people, asking these like orphans for ID. Like, who does that? They're just like kicking these kids around after you already like destroyed their planet. Also, and I'll say this is another thing that was really kind of chilling about the First Order is they just like very casually sent that guy for a mind wipe. They were just like, erase his whole damn identity.
He's not acting right.
I need my backstory series on stormtroopers or a stormtrooper, the life of a stormtrooper, how they get kidnapped, how they get mind wiped, how does that process go? I mean, I need a series of something.
Like, Terry came to again. We got to send him down for repairs. You got to get his mind wiped and start over with one of those
scrape. Mind scrape.
Scraped. That's right. They said scraped. Yuck. Oh, that's
even worse.
I'll tell you what that makes me think. That makes me think this would be an excellent type of place to have a video game character that just keeps coming to over and over, like in Dark Souls or something, where you just keep getting blown up, or like you got to do that. What's that Tom Cruise movie, right? Live, Die, Repeat, or whatever.
Oh, Edge of Tomorrow.
Edge of Tomorrow. Like you just have to do that with a stormtrooper, and you just keep coming to with like a scraped mind. Like, I mean, I like that a lot. So we're seeing more of what the First Order's ultimate plans are. They're to win, and they plan on winning here at the Colossus, and they keep dropping off more dudes. More and more and more dudes just keep showing up. Which will happen at a party if you're not clear about who's invited.
Yeah, and I mean, I echo you guys' thoughts. You know, I was very down on this series, but I think, and we talked about it kind of off camera before you guys got on. You know, it is what it is. It is what it is. It's Disney XD Star Wars, right? But it doesn't have to be It doesn't have to be bad. And we talked about this, and this really will lead into our kind of, I guess, first discussion point. Like, and me and Hitch were talking about this. It seems like either it's one of two things, right? With Filoni's stories, either he knows going into these that he has 2 seasons, or there has to be more exposition, because for somebody as polished as he is, the common theme for Clone Wars, Rebels, everything we watched animated from him, even his live action stuff, is the character development for certain characters, particularly main characters, is so slow. Even Ahsoka, like we were hearing about Sabine, like before we even found out anything about Ahsoka. Right. So I think that's maybe not necessarily a flaw of his, but maybe it's things that we don't know as far as how these shows are structured, because it's a common theme that we've always said, like, man, his development is very slow. But on the flip side, and we see there's a season 2 of this, just like, you know, Bad Batch and everything else. So maybe that's something, I guess, if, you know, we don't know if it's coming back or something that we can be critical of. But it's just one of those things. It's gotten better, but in my eyes, I just think it's taken a little bit too long to get going, so to speak. Like you guys talked about it, the whole space race, kind of like whatever that is, or if that's like the Las Vegas of the galaxy at this point, and or what do they call that planet on episode 8? The whatever casino pilot.
That's a classy place. This feels like a dog track. You know what I mean?
Oh, so this would be like the Meadowlands.
No, the Wheeling. This is the Wheeling Downs.
Oh,
let me be serious. The middle of the island.
Wheeling Island. Yeah.
Wow.
Wheeling Island.
Shout out to Wheeling.
Yes. Yeah, right. That's crazy.
I've been there. I've won there. I've lost there.
I never won at the island, but you know, at least there's a Carlos Patsy's. You know, a couple to name a few, but
first of all, Pat, I don't get me on it. Don't get me on an Ohio Valley pizza tangent, because I'll tell you all about the differences. I know I'm very well versed. Let's just say
Elm Grove. You know, we'll say whatever it is. You know what I mean? But
no. you guys talked up a really great point, because maybe with the Ahsoka, yeah, right.
Everybody likes pizza, man.
Maybe with the Ahsoka, Filoni just didn't have enough episodes, you know.
Right.
And if that's his flaw, then that's not a big critique on him.
Right.
Then it makes me feel really good that, you know, I guess he's like, you know, if you're running in a race or whatever, he's like that guy you count out when everybody else has skills and stuff. So everybody is off, you know, running and everything, and he's like the slow one getting out the gate. But he keeps pace, you know, during like the race and everything, and he's gonna finish. He's gonna finish first because he's gonna pace himself. He's gonna make sure that he's good enough to go towards the end while everybody's sprinting. He's pacing himself. So at the end, when it comes out to the photo finish, he's right there, winning the game and everything, or running the race. Filoni, he's a good writer. He's a good writer. But I totally agree. Getting out the gate, maybe it's just something that he just has to develop over time and everything. Get out the gate faster so he could get into things quicker. Because audience patience aren't going to be like the animated stuff. Where you're going to get 21 episodes.
We like what Filoni's doing.
Yeah.
Are we all in agreement that Filoni is basically the best cat at this job?
Yeah.
Like we want. Okay, so why would he want to change what he's doing? Maybe if he changes it,
I think No, I think DP. We've been on to it. I mean, he ruined half of Boba Fett with filler episodes, half of Obi-Wan with filler episodes, to some extent, half of Ahsoka with filler. Like, just dive in a little quicker. You know what I mean?
It's either that, T. Mitch, or Disney needs to give these episodes more.
Correct.
And I'm more on the more side versus him trying to dive in more.
I will say that I do think that there, in this particular case, there's something to setting up a very basic, childish premise that feels like wacky races, where there's not a lot of high stakes because everyone's going to be. I mean, you're going to be fine. The only real danger to happen in the past to Yeager's family, right? That's a stupid explosive, fuel or whatever. And there's just not a lot going on. It's like a kid's show, right? And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the First Order shows up, and they're like, Heath Ledger's Batman showed up in Batman 1966. Like, he's just shooting everybody and being crazy. Like, it would just be a crazy, like, oh my god, like that's what seems to be happening here. Where all of a sudden the stakes just get ramped up. All of a sudden the shows got completely different tenor.
Way more mature.
Right.
Like, okay,
right.
All of a sudden.
So think about this generation of characters that grew up in the post-Palpatinian peace, where even the Imperial people got to come back into society without a whole lot of hassle, which we've seen. And now all of a sudden, out of nowhere, these jerks are showing up and making everything all of a sudden real serious. And all they want to do is just build race cars and hang out. But these jerks want to come in and start making the show all about these murders and this investigation and stuff. And it's just like, you can really see that there's no real prompting of that. Like, there's not any sort of socioeconomic pressure on the First Order making them do this. They're just deciding to, which
they're not stopping with just the regular citizens. They're going down to like the garbage pickers. I mean, they're taking our canary head creature's floor cleaning device away from him or her, or whatever it is, and they're giving them a basket to use instead of that floor cleaning device. I mean, they are going down to the
I didn't even catch that. I was wondering. I was like, why is he using the machine thing? Yeah, I didn't catch that until you just said it. That's crazy.
They took that away. They took that away from him, and they gave him a basket. And you know what? He still did a good job, because he was able to pick up trash and just throw it into that basket without even looking. I mean, look at these little.
So it's using the Force to do that
Filoni puts in here.
Was that Broom Boy? Before Broom Boy?
Oh my god!
Yes, there are these little tiny nuggets of despair that he writes in here that you got to call out, because it's not just the big picture. It's not just like the fruit, right? The fruit fight. It's the First Order is subjugating and destroying the very foundation of what makes this Colossus work. So eventually what's going to happen is you're going to have a First Order trooper, Kaz, or maybe someone else cleaning the floor, because they're going to have killed and destroyed everybody on this space.
Or hypnotized them, mind scraped them.
They scraped the hell out of
Yep, and that's how they get in there, because you take over. that's how a fascist regime takes over. They destroy everything and they become everything that was.
Yeah, and they got the buy-in from folks on safety and whatever
Yes.
and everything,
Yes.
So that's what's even scarier, the buy-in from people to let this thing just happen instead of you actually seeing the full overview of, okay, well, these people aren't really supposed to be here. We don't really need these people. Even Doza's like, I don't really need all this security and stuff. Okay, well, little negotiations and everything.
Here's a small unit.
Yeah.
Here's a small unit. And Tam, talk about her real quick because we're in the weeds here. Tam grew up as an Imperial subject. That was her background. She was a repairer. She did repair on equipment, machinery. Her family was employed by the Empire. So she feels that this is what she's used to. This is what she grew up with. Mm-hmm. And she's got that British Nazi German accent too. Which
I don't think the British.
That's pretty painful, bro. I'm not gonna lie. That's a hot take.
Hey, Grand Moff Tarkin had the whole thing. The roll of the R, and it was. Hey, it was a stereotype.
It does really feel like a lot of these arguments are like someone coming in and be like, "We got to get rid of the First Order. They're rousting the homeless," and then someone else runs in and go like, "Hey, man, that First Order has been rousting all the homeless." You know what I mean? Like they're they're just diametrically opposed as they consider the same exact action, right? And it's not, it's not weirdly, it's not weird because there is sort of a capital has its own sort of money, has its own kind of velocity when it comes to politics, and so there's people that will always value whatever is good for their pecuniary interests. That's just the truth. And so it's interesting to see that portrayed here, especially because it's not like, the First Order is not completely branded with all the same crap from the Empire. You know what I mean? They have not bothered to change very much. I mean, what they've done with the Stormtrooper's faceplate is not enough for you to look at that and say that's a different thing, right? So they're coming and saying, listen, the thing we want to do is we want to restore the Empire. That's it. We're being very obvious about that thing. And there's people that were like pretty much like, well, I was able to be favored by the Empire, so I want the Empire to come back. I figured they'll favor me again. And it's really just this personal selfish interest they put ahead of things that they know are better for the collective, like freedom of speech and freedom of association and commerce. Because I think most people don't want their own freedoms of association and speech and commerce to be, curtailed. Like nobody actually wants that.
Do they call it? Is that unconscious bias or cognitive dissonance or something like that? Something where they see the obvious. I think it's the key word you said. The obvious is right there, but they choose to ignore it. Even though it's right in their face, being
that would be
right in front of them.
That would be a definition of unconscious bias if you go by that way. But
when you think about it, it's like if I'm being paid a salary to tell you that there's no such thing as global warming, I'm going to keep doing that until they stop paying my salary.
Right. Until your salary goes down.
So if doing a thing benefits me personally, I'll do it. Even if I understand intellectually that there may be risks involved. I with fascism, I think a lot of times the math is, well, I'm not going to be on the bad side with this group. So I really don't have anything to worry about.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like they're not coming for me. Okay. So there's no reason for me to be concerned. And I think you're seeing that on the Colossus, you're seeing that there are certain people that don't think the First Order is gunning for them. And therefore they're not concerned with the First Order showing up. In fact, perhaps if the First Order gets rid of those people that I don't really like anyway, I'll make more money and therefore I will do better. Why shouldn't I, if I understand my own self-interest, support them? And it's because they don't see the forest for the trees, which is that there's no guarantee that the no-no list stays the same. That no-no list can change whenever the apparatus of the party wants it to.
In other words, we need to keep an eye on Tam.
Yes,
Yeah.
we do.
For sure.
Maybe,
Because
For sure.
maybe, and Doza, because basically what's the power that's running the Colossus are these droids. Doza has these security droids and the aces, and that's it. Everyone else is a minion. All the people and aliens or whatever they are just riffraff. I mean, they're expendable, and we don't really know where they fit in. They don't like the First Order because face it. Would you like someone to come in and just tell you that you couldn't walk around after 10 p.m. at night? You just you're going to jail. You're going to jail. Now, fortunately, we live in a society where that doesn't happen normally.
Not yet.
Not yet. It could, but right now it's something that we are
fortunate. We live in this glass bubble where fortunately these things don't happen like
don't
that.
happen. But imagine if it did, and all of a sudden there was a group of armored people, citizens that maybe they were able to be turned
Order
for
66?
economic reasons, whatever, Order 66. And now they're telling you you got to take your Christmas lights down because it's not Christmas anymore. You can't walk your dog past 10 p.m.
I will say you have hit on something, which is that all HOAs are fascist. That is the truth about HOAs.
Correct.
Why you don't want one.
Yeah, so we even have little bits of this like totalitarian like control.
We're not. Ours isn't that strict.
Well, it could get that way.
Some are. You got to have your grass cut to a certain length. You got to make sure that your grass is
taking your trash cans.
Right.
You can't paint your house weird colors.
Right. There's levels of control. I think the First Order just kind of jumps the gun and they just want to whack you.
They want IDs from kids. I'm like, these are kids. Why are you asking for IDs?
Orphans. They're beating up on orphans, and guess what?
I can't wait to kick you into the water. You know what I mean? Like it's just so. It's
look what happened to the guy though. He got bested, and they kept clocking him on the head.
Him.
By the time he got back to his people, back to his regiment, poor CS-515 was a meatball.
Oh,
I mean, they left
he's about to get scraped. Oh, geez.
But they all got to be meatballs to a certain extent, right? Yeah. Because they're all, So the First Order has basically souped up its power by hypnotizing and enslaving the children of all these planets in the unknown region, and just putting them in ships that they've built by stripping all the resources out of these places, and nobody knows about it because nobody wants to know about it. And because it's happening in a place that isn't governed by the New Republic. So why should the New Republic get involved? And it's a classic textbook example of why the New Republic should get involved now when they have all the advantages, all the weaponry, but there's no political will to do so.
Right.
There's no political will to do so because, if the Imperials weren't made to really, it seems like the Imperials were kind of let off easy. And that sends ultimately, I think, the wrong message. If you're committed to saying the Empire was, an evil, oppressive, fascist regime, which I think we should probably.
It sort of makes like this series, I guess, the writing a little brilliant in the fact because we got introduced to these kids like second episode, so they were dropping tidbits a long time ago, about little things that were happening that we should be picking up on the First Order to where we are right now. I mean, obviously, we already know where it's going and everything, but just a little tidbits that we're now seeing coming to fruition and everything. I mean, it sort of makes it, I guess, worth the time. But like I said, Filoni still needs to get into it more quickly. I do agree, but it makes watching these batch of episodes that much more fruitful.
Yeah, I mean, I think and you guys are all right. I think it's maybe slower developed. Maybe it's because of it's for a younger audience, right? So maybe they're doing that. And maybe a lot of this animated stuff, we think about us as Star Wars fans. And you're right, DP. Maybe Rebels wasn't for us, but the way it progressed with the theming, it became more for us. But and maybe that's something, and maybe it's a flaw of mine that I've noticed. Me being nitpicky, like. and it's something I've kind of honed into. It seems like with a lot of these projects in Star Wars and Marvel particularly, it seems like they try something to draw in a new audience, and somewhere down the line they pivot and be like, "Fuck it, let's go back to the people who cares." You know what I mean? Like if you see everything we've watched, it's like, let's try to draw some new people in.
Well, I mean, it's
let me
a
look at
great
the ratings.
it's a great business thing. I mean, if you're making a certain level of money and you're not seeing any type of, you know,
they're
any wavelength, I mean, either you're going to stick with that money that's being made, or you're going to try to, you know, do things to try to. I mean, your shareholders.
Right.
Unfortunately, we had these companies that are slaves to shareholders and stuff. They want to make more. Right. So what do you got to do? You got to go past the people who have already been into it, try to draw more people in and hope they stay.
Right. So yeah, no, they pivot very quickly. But the crazy part about this is, and you kind of touched it, like the New Republic is like, so we learned basically that, so this is, if everybody isn't aware, this is 25 years after Ahsoka season 1. So this was 25 years. You know, we'll see how season 2 progresses, movies, things of that nature. We can finish up on some of those thoughts. But like, so in these 25 years, we understand that they've been building back up, and we've seen it in Ahsoka. And it's kind of cool how these breadcrumbs, and we talked about this. This is the genius of Filoni.
Yeah.
He adds these breadcrumbs, right? Because we saw the Imperial factories to where they're still building ships. They're tearing apart destroyers, dreadnoughts. They're harvesting things to now rebuild in other planets. And the crazy thing is, the New Republic knows this and is like, oh, we just have them. We have all these old Imperials, like whatever, tearing these apart. Yeah, well, they're working for us. They're scrapping these. So what do you know? I always thought about it. So what are you doing with the parts? What are you doing with the hyperdrive engine after you tear it out of a starship? Like,
what do you do with like all that crap that you mined out that can make like a million blasters? Like, what are you doing with a million guns? Like, is that something that we should think about? Is our our ideological, like our predecessors having a million guns? Like, if I'm the state and I have like a duty to maintain a monopoly on violence, right? That's what the state has a duty to exercise that monopoly and to prevent anyone from horning in on it. Isn't a million blasters worth of like ore something they should be concerned with? Like, wouldn't that upset the political equilibrium of wherever they send a million blasters?
They're not thinking that it's going to be like war. They're thinking it's going to be something that they can use as a defense. Just like the clones were built for defense of the Republic, not for war. That was the point. Mm-hmm. That's why everybody was a full in buy-in. You put all your chips in, because the clones were and they said it. The Kaminoans said it. Obi-Wan said it. These were soldiers for defense, not war. So something had to happen to change that.
It makes it even, and hits on a point. It makes it even more of like a stubborn. It's an arrogance. So you're basically your military might. Your wizards are gone. So the Jedi are gone at this point, right? So we know that, even though there are some here and there, right?
And we haven't heard about Jedi or the Force in the series yet, which is really
but I mean, interesting. Think about it. So they're like basically secret weapons, right? Their nuclear arsenal, the Jedi, are now gone. So wouldn't you be a little more aware of like gun running, this, extraction of resources, things getting, and that lets you know they're Imperial still in this new Senate. They're Imperial still within the New Republic, as we saw in Andor and whatnot. But it really sets the stage of how, and we taught us the real world stuff, how blind people get when they get a little bit of power, or when regimes get comfortable, you know what I mean?
Like when regimes get comfortable. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. When regimes get comfortable, this is what happens.
Yeah, Doza is completely comfortable with this situation. He feels full on that they are protecting his Colossus, his ship. He lets them know, but of course, in that last scene, what happened? He said, "This is still my office," and Pryor said, "These are my troops. These are my soldiers." And what happened? Captain Doza left. So there's the turn. And I think we're going to see in the last set of episodes, we're going to see where Doza now sees where he's been sort of blindsided because of he felt he was in charge and he didn't see.
Well, they made him feel that he was in charge. Okay, sure, yeah, we're here to just protect you and everything. Sure, sort of like that you see what you want to see and you hear what you want to hear. Doza is seeing what he wants to see, hear what he want to hear, because they still give him that sense of, okay, you're still in command, you're still in control.
And why is that? What did they do to make him feel that way?
The whole kidnapping thing, that was genius.
Yeah.
Family. Where do
Genius.
you get somebody? Where do you get control over somebody? You influence their family somehow. They brought his daughter back to him. That was it.
Couldn't Liam Neeson.
After setting them up, that was crazy. That was crazy.
That's when those guys showed up and they were like, pirates, huh? You know what I mean? Like, oh well, we're just gonna blow you guys up, and that's fine with us.
And that was great. If somebody brought my kids back to me,
oh yeah, you could have did it. Yeah,
I'd be like, what do you need? What do you need? I'm yours. You brought my kids back to me.
I'd be
brought my wife back.
I'm pulling them.
I'd be pulling the
lightsaber. Yeah, I'm pulling the lightsaber out. I'm not gonna lie. I'll have to animate them like this. I'm gonna have to. They're gonna be like the sand people.
Doza doesn't come off as a suspicious type of guy.
No.
He's like a he's a commander general, follow orders type.
Yeah, very loyal.
He's like a Confederate, like an ex-Confederate that got to run a mining place out in California or something like that. Yep. You know what I mean? And it's sort of like implied that he didn't like something the Empire did, and so he quit, which is not the same thing as like I resigned when the Empire collapsed or something like that.
And we don't know his story yet.
Right. And I think one thing that's interesting is that it seems like the post-imperial era compares to the U.S. Reconstruction era, in where there was probably some strident anti-imperial sentiment for a while that just wore off. And like at some point they were just like they did in the United States, by the way, they just went, oh man, 11 years is a long time. And they just kind of gave up. Like that's kind of what happened. That's why you see this period where there's all these, like the first black senator from Mississippi or something is like in 1868. And then that doesn't happen again for an extreme. I don't think maybe it hasn't yet. But that doesn't happen again for an extremely, extremely long time. And it's obvious that essentially what happened is, the political will of the people that were Confederates lasted way longer than the people of the North. They just outlasted them and then went back to the way they were doing things and everything except name. So that seems to be what the First Order is like that arm, that military arm that's going to restore that. And there is like the places where the Empire benefited. Like you would imagine there are places where they were like, we'll put a factory here and you'll all get jobs and we need engineers and it'll be awesome. Those planets are probably still loyal to the Imperial system and wouldn't mind seeing, maybe somehow Palpatine return.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
They wouldn't mind it.
And it takes you how many movies for that to happen?
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. On one side, you got the wizards. The other side, you got the politics.
Not bad.
And it's something that Ken was touching on. We haven't seen any of the wizardry, yet.
None. No force.
I'm wondering if ever or if needed. I mean, they did mention Kylo Ren, at some point, so I'm expecting them to fire that, that smoking gun at some point in the series. Right. But it would be nice to see some of the Star Wars stuff that we're used to, into it. And like I said, it jumped from being a kid show to something a little bit more mature with mature, subject matters and everything with these last batch of episodes. So, I mean, I'm applauding what I thought was going to be just a run of the mill. Like, okay, Dave Filoni, what were you doing here?
Trash. You thought it was going to be trash.
Thought it was going to be trash.
Well, I do think this batch of episodes is where, like, if the point of this is to give us more depth into the sequel trilogy and to add to it and make us understand more about what's going on in the same way the Clone Wars did that with the prequel trilogy, then I think this is the first place where I think that's very successful. And they're telling us more about how this universe came to be, who these players are, what their goals are, why they're doing the things they're doing. And I think that means that this is the point where it begins being successful.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Somehow the First Order's return.
Somehow.
Somehow.
Yeah. And what's seeing that connection.
They bribed everybody.
And I think after we finish this, I would like to do a rewatch of The Force Awakens with this new perspective.
Right.
Because I think it's gonna give us.
Hey, I'm in.
That's double the two of the movies down there.
Because you got to figure Force. So let's see. Return of the Jedi came out, and then we had the prequel 1, 2, 3. How long was it since Revenge of the Sith, or that last movie was
19 years.
I was gonna say almost 20 years, yeah.
Okay, so 20 years.
Oh, wow.
And here we have this thing, and we had such high hopes. We were all just so jazzed. And here's this story that we have no idea. All it looked like was a rehash of the Empire and a ragtag fugitive fleet of whatever resistance. And we had no idea what this was. But now we've got backstory. Now we see how the First Order, now we've got this map from a USB drive, thumb drive, that now we see the big picture. We see that they have actually infiltrated the entire outer rim. I mean, they have red dots everywhere. And we know, we're all nerds. Whenever you see a space map with red dots on it, I don't care what movie you're watching, but that's bad.
Right.
It's bad news. Those
That's
red dots
bad.
are usually not good things.
It's bad news when you got red dots on a map, especially a space map.
Especially when you look at them and you're like, okay, here's the blue dot. Here's the one blue dot that represents all our stuff.
That's you.
Here's all the red dots.
There are a whole bunch of red dots, and we see and it's never good. And now we see the big picture here.
So I'm a little confused. I'm very intrigued with this whole mind scrape thing. As soon as they mentioned that, I was just like, huh. Okay. Mm-hmm. So my immediate thought goes to Finn, and was he not mind scraped? Like it was a different. Is a different thing they do with troopers?
Well, the thing was that there were some that were mind scraped, but also keep in mind this is the period to where this would have been 25. So I'm guessing if it's 25 years on, this is leading up to literally The Force Awakens within maybe a year or so. Finn's 25, 26 is. This is the, and it's weird. And this is where it gets kind of murky because if they're saying they were capturing Force sensitives, like who were these people in these 25 years? Because he's around 25, I'm guessing, right? That the minute that the Emperor fell, like there was a new order, whatever, 99, that we need to start building up our ranks, right? Because if we're doing 25 years and he's around 25, I'm guessing at the period of the, Force Awakens, like you're right. How are you getting? Because that was the thought process as they were taking Force sensitive children. That was his kind of backstory. They were kidnapping children and whatnot. And
why would you scrape a Force sensitive mind?
It's just like it was Rey. Rey was mind scraped, right? They shut off some kind of lobe that, and then when the interaction happened, so maybe there's more to that story. Yeah, maybe there is more to that story as far as. Because we never got that, and that's the crazy part that really, and we'll get back into this on another show. But
and that makes you mad.
When we connected, like, we never understood what unlocked her. They never touched back on that. Like, remember they said that somebody had shut her off in the Force and she lost it. What was it? That was like a big point. That was a smoking gun that they didn't shoot. Who blocked her off of the Force?
What did we miss?
Because they basically they went ahead in episode 8 and said it doesn't matter who your parents are. And so they were going to be like, okay, we're not going to address that. And then in episode 9 they said, just kidding.
Wait.
It really, really, really matters who your parents are, and also your dad is probably an exact genetic clone of
Emperor
Chief Palpatine the Emperor.
Yeah.
So deal with that. Also, here's your dad / grandpa who's returned.
Yep.
Enjoy that little tidbit of information.
And all mental health is covered under our. You have complete. You can call these people, and what are they called? ComPsych. You
Right.
can call them,
Wow.
and
Wow.
it's all covered. And you talk to this person for 1 hour, once a week, and they will bring you back. Because right now you're a loose cannon. You don't know what's going on. Your parents are now the most evil people
Ooh,
in the universe.
Ever.
ever indistinguishable from.
She had to put a Sedgwick claim in for sure. Then,
Everybody's
And
done it.
we'll prove that all day
of
long.
course, she put a Sedgwick claim in, but story for.
I feel like that the first order, mental health plan might not be that great. It's like, well, how are you doing? I'm feeling sad. It's like, well,
We'll
mine's great for you.
Yeah, we'll
Next.
take care of you. That's easy. That's an easy.
Hey,
fix.
yeah. How about you? Actually, I'm feeling pretty good. I just came
Mine's
in.
great.
We don't like getting to know the nuance and complexities of this. Go to the mind scraper, be done with it.
Yeah. Right.
Well, they did it.
Therapy, that's for different crap.
Mandalorian had the mind flayer. We already saw this, right? We saw
The mind flare, yeah.
we saw this already.
Yeah.
Mind scraper, the mind flayer. Man, minds in Star Wars got it tough. Mind probe, I believe Princess Leia was resistant to the mind probe.
And what was that? We never saw that. We never ever saw her resistance to the mind probe. Was it just that that medicine that was injected into her by the Imperial probe droid? Interrogation droid. Sorry.
Yeah.
The interrogation droid injected something into Leia's eyeball, but we never saw what that did. So we don't know. This is technology. We have no visual idea of what this is. So we're all right. Mind scraping, mind flare, mind probe.
Just like, well, back in the Empire days, they'd shoot you in the eyeball with some of this viscous liquid. It would make you feel better. You'd see things from a new perspective. We don't do that anymore. Now we're much more humane. We're just going to mind scrape you, and you'll feel fine.
And you'll feel fine, and you won't know who your name is. You don't.
I'll tell you this much: you won't worry about who the Emperor is and why he's.
Damn sure, right?
I'm damn sure about that. You might change your mind about that.
That's good. You won't worry about the Emperor. And
that's the first thing they scrape is any worries you have about Palpatine.
I like that. I like that.
Good idea. Hopefully we'll get a little bit more late in these last. I mean, I'm thinking these last four are going to be, they're going to be phenomenal. If anything, floating.
So teammates, you haven't went ahead, huh? I'm surprised.
I didn't, bro. I told you, this is Disney XD.
Yeah, we're doing this all together.
I thought you would have
all together. No.
I didn't go ahead for this. I'm watching it live like you guys. I'm doing it on a weekly basis.
It has a natural momentum to it. I think it's okay.
Fair.
It's okay to start a little slow when it's 40 episodes. And we're only 16 episodes in. That's now quarter of the way through now, third of the way. Yeah. So time to show me some plot.
For sure. So if you're not aware, we'll be finishing up the season next week, which will be 17 to 20. And the cool thing for this is I believe the ending's a two-parter, right? So it's like a part one, part two, which always two-parters are always
we love two-parters. We love when things are when there's a cliffhanger that we can go, God damn, that was great. I couldn't wait.
I do actually like a cliffhanger, especially when I know, the show is going to keep going on and on and on. If you guys watch Reacher on Amazon, they're already filming season 3 with that guy, so I'm pretty sure he's going to be okay. Most likely. So something to take some of the, or if you watch NCIS, Gibbs, probably fine. Probably if somebody's around Gibbs, maybe they're not going to be okay.
Maybe he's going to get he's going to whooping cough and just die. You never know. You never know. But I think with a Star Wars cliffhanger, we know there's going to be a great bottom line.
Well, the good news for this show is we don't have to wait a year and a half to finish in the season 2. So
not like the Mandalorian and Grogu movie.
Yeah, we're saying that for next week because man, I have some thoughts. That might need to be an episode in itself. Maybe we'll do that in between the two seasons, bro, because that's going to take that's a whole rant in itself for what
Let's
they're
watch
doing.
these episodes and see if we have.
You know what my
Space next
biggest
Yeah.
complaint right now with all of this? Now I like Jedi Survivor, but I want a Mando video game.
That's like I said. That'll be part of our epic rant. It's crazy, bro. The money and that game, the open world game's coming out, but yeah, money's all over the place. With,
Smuggling.
I mean, I could do a Mandalorian video game, but it'd be like a stick figure guy, like
hope-
walking around.
I hope that smuggling game's a lot like Drug War on the TI-83.
Am I, but yeah, that's smuggling.
Am I the
games
only one that
coming out,
played
yeah.
that? Was I the only math nerd that
I
had a
didn't play that,
TI-83 in
yeah.
high school?
No, the Tandy Radio Shack computer.
Well, you could sell drugs on it not to other computer people,
Oh,
and it was a
what?
buy low sell. It was a buy low sell high game.
Drugs?
So
Like-
you know, yeah, it had coke and lewds, and
Yeah.
marijuana, and all sorts of types of heroin.
What?
And you would buy it, and you would try to find it in the subway on a low price, and then you would sell it when the price would be higher, and you'd make a bunch of. The goal was to
And
make
it's
$1 million.
called
In a month.
capitalism. It's called capitalism.
Yeah,
This
And
is
that's
like the
that's what we
underlying.
would
This
do
is the
during-
underlying meaning of the Oregon Trail, by the way. This is like the underworld of the Oregon Trail.
Right.
Oregon
Because
Trail.
we would all die of dysentery.
we would play because you don't want to play a long game of Oregon Trail like at recess or whatever. So we would play who can kill their party the fastest, like who can just completely destroy them. So they like the shortest distance from St. Louis gone. It's much faster.
Oh,
And then you don't have to
Imagine-
worry about trying to navigate the dales and lose all your stuff when your raft collapses. And then you lose Jerry with a broken leg. He's dead. Oh, poor Jerry.
Shit. But no, guys, I really appreciate it. This has been a fun week, fun episode. Great to be back. Time flies always when we're together, so that's another good thing. But like I said, next week, guys, stay tuned for us as we'll be finishing off season 1. And until next week, this is the way.
This is the way.